Okay, friends, welcome to Comics Odyssey one more time. We're going to be looking at a time lapse of a drawing I made of Mr. Bones from DC Comics. Mr. Bones is the director of the Department of Extra Normal Operations, and he used to be a villain, but he's reformed, and his powers are a little unusual. He has invisible skin and flesh, so he appears just as a skeleton. And his sweat is corrosive. So, he's a very striking character. He just smokes a cigar. It's a skeleton that smokes a cigar and wears a suit, basically. So I based this off some noir films. So it's kind of a noir scene in an alley under a gaslight with some fog, you'll see. And I'm doing this in dip pen. So I'm dipping the pen in ink. And you see here I changed nibs just so that I can do larger areas more quickly. This dipping technique is really nice. It puts down like a very dark line, and the dip pen is responsive to like pressure. So if you press harder, it makes a different type of line. If you go quickly, it makes a different kind of line. So yeah. So I did all the red pencils to kind of get a feel for how everything is supposed to kind of fit together, and then I penciled it in to get more like tight lines, a tight image. And I don't trace perfectly everything. I follow the pencils, but as I go, if I see some things that need adjusting, then I change how the pencils go, how highlights work, and I might fix a little bit some of that anatomical things. Yeah, so drawing the smoke was fun. It's always nice to do flowing lines like that. And the idea here was to do like some very high contrast lighting. So you'll see big pools of black with just highlights where the gaslight would hit. Obviously, realistic lighting would have his face completely in shadow, but that would not look good. You wouldn't be able to see the character, so you cheat the lighting a little bit so that you can actually see his face properly. So I'm drawing this on the back of a comic book backing board, so collectors like to store their comics to stay in good condition, so they put a piece of cardboard, sort of, but it's acid-free cardboard so that it doesn't corrode the book, and they put that in a plastic bag. So it's the right size it's like a little bit bigger than a comic book. I'm doing these for my comic shop. I'm doing a few of them, and I'm putting them on backing boards because it's kind of like standard. So if they want to display them or put them in a box or something, it's all kind of going to fit properly. You see, sometimes I'm extending my hand across. What I'm doing there is I'm testing the pen nib. So I dip it in ink, and each time I use a scrap of paper and I do a few lines on the paper to test, make sure there's like not too much ink or too little, and that it's flowing properly. So that's just a short test. So every time I extend, I do it with the brush too. So here I'm switching to ink wash. So it's the same ink. I dip my brush in it, but then I dip it in water. So it dilutes it and makes it more gray, and it works a little bit more like watercolor. It flows very different with the brush. So I do the same thing. I test the brush. So here, taking a little break. The ink wash I discovered while I did a challenge called No Shortcuts November. The first 2 weeks in November, I drew 100 heads, and I got bored drawing the same thing over and over again. So I just started experimenting with the wash, and I really enjoyed it. It's a really good effect. You see, I'm kind of doing like a mist or clouds or something like that, and it goes on dark sometimes, but it dries lighter. And I'm using the piece of paper towel here, shop towel, to absorb when there's like too many goops of water. I pick them up so that it doesn't drip down the paper. So these are old screen tones. I had played with screen tones for a while, and I enjoyed them, but I didn't find them spontaneous enough. I find the washes are a little bit more, they feel natural to work with to me. But these old scraps of screen tone, I'm using as a mask. So you'll see I'm going to cut all around and remove all the bits that are not masked. And then I'll just kind of brush across the mask. I brush across the whole thing with like a sponge brush with the wash to create a background effect. You'll see I really like this effect that's coming up. It's a bit tedious cutting all these pieces, and I even forgot a little piece, but it's worth it for the effect. It takes a bit of time, but definitely it makes for a good effect. So yeah, you see I just water, so I can just go straight across and not worry about inking over top where I shouldn't be inking, right? Because the screen tone mask is protecting it. So when I remove it, you really see the lighting effect comes across really nice. Just doing some touch-ups so that it comes across nice, and a little bit of erasing, and red, white, and black. Always a good combination. Learned that in graphic design. So that's the finished piece, Mr. Bones under gaslight. I think it turned out good. If you want to get updates on all my art and my comics, there's the link, comicsodyssey.substack.com.